Hey, before you scroll away, give me just one moment. Life moves fast. We're always rushing to the next thing, the next notification, the next distraction. But sometimes there are conversations that can't be replaced by a text message or a quick phone call. Please watch this. I need to talk to you in person. Please watch. Those words carry something deeper than curiosity. They carry honesty, vulnerability, and the hope that someone will truly listen. Today, I want to talk about why some conversations deserve eye contact instead of emojis, presence instead of distance, and real human connection instead of silence. So, stay with me, because this message might mean more than you think. There are moments in life when a message on a screen simply isn't enough. We live in a world where almost everything can be delivered instantly. A few taps can send a thought across the planet, a voice can travel thousands of miles in seconds, and a video can reach millions of people before the day is over. Yet, despite all of this convenience, there are still conversations that lose something important the moment they become text. Some words need to exist in the same room as the person hearing them. They need pauses, they need silence, they need the expression on a face, the movement of hands, the warmth of another human being sitting close enough to remind us that we are not alone. It's easy to believe that communication has never been better because we have more ways to reach each other than ever before, but reaching someone and truly connecting with them are not the same thing. A notification can get someone's attention, but it cannot always earn their understanding. A typed sentence can explain what happened, but it often struggles to explain what it felt like. The spaces between our words matter just as much as the words themselves. The hesitation before speaking, the deep breath taken while searching for courage, the quiet look that says more than any sentence could ever hold. Those things disappear when everything is reduced to letters on a screen. Maybe you've experienced this before. You receive a short message from someone you care about. You read it once, then read it again, wondering what they really meant. Were they upset? Were they disappointed? Were they afraid? Were they trying to hide something? The more you read, the more uncertain you become. Suddenly, you're not having a conversation with another person. You're having a conversation with your own assumptions. You begin filling in the missing pieces with your fears, your memories, and your expectations. Sometimes those assumptions are right. Often they are not. When two people sit together, uncertainty has less room to grow. Eyes reveal what words cannot. A trembling voice tells a story before a sentence is even completed. A long pause isn't awkward when you understand that someone is searching for the strength to continue. In those moments, listening becomes more than waiting for your turn to speak. It becomes an act of respect. It becomes a way of saying, I'm here, and I'm willing to stay here for as long as this takes. There are conversations that ask for patience instead of speed. We have become accustomed to immediate replies, instant reactions, and quick opinions. If a message isn't answered within minutes, people begin to wonder what went wrong. But meaningful conversations have never followed a timer. They unfold naturally. Sometimes they stop for a while because emotions need time to settle. Sometimes silence says exactly what needs to be said. Sometimes the most supportive thing anyone can do is simply remain present without trying to fix everything immediately. Being present is becoming a rare gift. It sounds simple, but it requires something many people struggle to give: undivided attention. Not attention divided between a conversation and a phone, not attention interrupted by endless notifications, not attention borrowed for a few seconds before drifting somewhere else. Real attention tells another person that for this moment, nothing is more important than understanding what they are trying to share. Every person carries stories they have never told. Some stories stay hidden because they are painful. Others remain buried because people fear they will not be believed or understood. Many spend years convincing themselves that keeping everything inside is easier than risking rejection. They smile when expected to smile. They answer, I'm fine, because it feels simpler than explaining everything that happened before that moment. Over time, those hidden stories become heavier, not because they change, but because they are carried alone. Imagine how different life could feel if more people chose to meet instead of merely messaging. Imagine sitting across from someone who finally says the words they've been rehearsing in their mind for weeks, months, or even years. Those words may not come out perfectly. They may be interrupted by emotion, by silence, or by uncertainty. That doesn't make them less meaningful. In fact, it often makes them more honest. Real conversations are rarely polished. They are filled with unfinished thoughts, unexpected pauses, and emotions that refuse to fit neatly into sentences. Honesty doesn't always arrive with confidence. Sometimes it arrives quietly, almost apologetically. Sometimes it begins with, I don't know how to say this. Those simple words often introduce the most important conversations a person will ever have. They remind us that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is speaking even while fear is present. It is allowing someone else to see the parts of ourselves we usually keep hidden because we worry they might change the way we're seen. Because being understood has never been about choosing perfect words. It has always been about trusting another person enough to let them witness the truth. That kind of trust cannot be forced, and it cannot be rushed. It grows quietly through moments when people realize they are safe enough to speak without pretending to be stronger, happier, or more certain than they really are. There is something remarkable about sitting across from another human being and realizing that neither of you has all the answers. In that space, there is no need to perform. There is no audience to impress, no carefully edited version of life to present, and no filter capable of hiding what your eyes have already revealed. For a little while, the world becomes quieter. The pressure to appear perfect begins to fade, and what remains is simply two people trying to understand one another. Many of us spend years learning how to speak, but very little time learning how to listen. We often prepare responses before someone has even finished their sentence. We interrupt with advice because silence makes us uncomfortable. We assume that solving someone's problem is more valuable than understanding their experience. Yet some of the most meaningful conversations happen when nobody rushes toward a solution. Sometimes people are not searching for answers. They are searching for someone who will stay long enough to hear the entire story. Think about the conversations you remember most clearly. Chances are they were not the loudest ones. They were probably the quiet conversations that happened late at night, during a long drive, while walking without any destination, or while sharing a simple cup of coffee. Those moments remain in our memory because they were real. Nobody was trying to win an argument. Nobody was trying to collect attention. The goal was simply to understand and to be understood. Life has a way of reminding us that time is never guaranteed. We postpone difficult conversations because we believe there will always be another opportunity. We tell ourselves that tomorrow will be more convenient, next week will be less stressful, or someday we will finally find the right words. Then life changes without asking for permission. People move away, relationships drift apart, circumstances shift, opportunities disappear. Suddenly, the conversation we thought could wait becomes the conversation we wish we had already had. That is why presence matters. Presence says, I'm choosing this moment instead of waiting for a better one that may never come. It means putting distractions aside and allowing another person's reality to become more important than the endless stream of things competing for our attention. It means recognizing that every meaningful relationship is built one conversation at a time, not through perfection but through consistency. When someone says, I need to talk to you in person, they are rarely asking only for your time. They are asking for your patience, your attention, your compassion, and your willingness to step into a moment that might be uncomfortable. They are trusting you with something they could have hidden forever. That trust is a gift, even when the conversation itself is difficult. Not every face tells the whole story. Some smiles are genuine, while others are carefully practiced after years of convincing the world that everything is fine. Some people become experts at carrying invisible burdens because they fear becoming one more problem for someone else. They laugh when expected to laugh. They continue working, studying, caring for others, and fulfilling responsibilities while quietly hoping someone will notice that something isn't right. Often, nobody does. The truth is that many people are not waiting for someone to rescue them. They are simply hoping someone will notice that they are carrying more than they can comfortably hold. A simple invitation to sit down and talk can become the beginning of healing. Not because every problem disappears, but because shared burdens often become lighter than those carried in complete silence. There is strength in admitting that you cannot express everything through a message. There is wisdom in recognizing that some emotions deserve eye contact instead of emojis, a steady voice instead of autocorrect, and genuine presence instead of another notification. Human connection has never depended on technology. It has always depended on the willingness to be fully present for another person, even when the conversation is uncertain, emotional, or difficult to begin because sometimes the hardest part of any conversation is simply saying the first sentence. Once those words are spoken, the walls people have built around themselves begin to soften. The fear that kept everything locked inside slowly loses its grip, not because the problems suddenly disappear, but because they no longer have to be carried in complete isolation. There is comfort in realizing that another person is willing to remain in the room without rushing the moment or trying to escape the discomfort. We often underestimate the power of being fully available. It doesn't require extraordinary wisdom or perfect advice. It doesn't demand impressive speeches or carefully rehearsed responses. More often than not, it asks for something much simpler and much rarer: the willingness to stay through the silence, to stay through the tears, to stay when the conversation becomes complicated, to stay even when there are no immediate answers. That kind of presence reminds people that they are worth someone's time, worth someone's patience, and worth someone's attention. Every meaningful relationship is shaped by moments that could have been avoided but weren't. Someone chose honesty over convenience. Someone chose vulnerability instead of pretending everything was fine. Someone decided that protecting an image was less important than protecting the relationship itself. Those choices are rarely dramatic. They happen quietly, one conversation at a time, until trust becomes something solid enough to carry people through life's uncertain seasons. The world often rewards appearances. It celebrates confidence, certainty, and constant success. Yet beneath those expectations, every person experiences moments of doubt, disappointment, regret, and fear. These experiences are not signs of weakness. They are reminders that being human means living through seasons we never expected. The strongest people are not those who never struggle. They are often the ones who finally decide they no longer want to struggle alone. There is a difference between hearing someone's words and understanding their experience. Hearing happens automatically. Understanding requires curiosity. It requires asking another question instead of assuming you already know the answer. It requires noticing the pauses between sentences, the emotions behind ordinary words, and the stories that remain unfinished because they are too difficult to tell all at once. Real understanding grows slowly, earned through patience rather than speed. Imagine if every person had at least one place where they never felt pressured to pretend. A place where success wasn't measured by achievements, appearances, or expectations, but by honesty. A place where saying "I'm not okay" wasn't seen as failure, but as the beginning of a genuine conversation. Many people spend years searching for that kind of space without ever finding it. Yet each of us has the ability to create it for someone else simply by choosing to listen without judgment. The conversations that change us are rarely planned. They begin unexpectedly, sometimes with hesitation, sometimes with uncertainty, and sometimes with nothing more than a quiet request to spend a little time together. Looking back, those moments often become turning points, not because every question found an answer, but because someone finally felt seen instead of overlooked, heard instead of ignored, accepted instead of misunderstood. Perhaps that is what makes human connection so extraordinary. It doesn't ask us to become perfect before we reach out to one another. It invites us exactly as we are, unfinished, imperfect, uncertain, still learning, still growing. It reminds us that our greatest value has never come from appearing flawless, but from our willingness to share life honestly with those who matter. When someone says, "Please watch this, I need to talk to you in person," those words carry more than a request. They carry hope. Hope that the relationship is strong enough to hold the truth. Hope that the other person will choose presence over distraction, understanding over assumption, and compassion over judgment. Hope that whatever happens next will begin with two people willing to face the same moment together instead of from opposite sides of a screen.